All right, welcome back to Talk Tickers. Today we're going to be diving deep into MongoDB's Q3 2025 earnings call.
Yeah, should be a good one.
It's interesting to see how MongoDB is really kind of trying to position themselves. I mean, they're this big database company serving enterprise customers, but they're also really trying to lean into this whole AI revolution.
They're doing a good job at it too. The numbers are there.
22% year-over-year revenue growth, and that put them at over $529 million for the quarter.
And Atlas, right? That's their cloud product.
Yeah,
68% of their revenue.
I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, that tells you a couple things, right? One, developers are really liking this product. It's flexible, it scales, and it seems like it can handle both the traditional apps and this whole new world of AI.
Well, and that's what I think is so interesting is how they're trying to play both sides of that, right?
Yeah.
Because they had this existing business, but AI is obviously the future. And so that's kind of the question mark.
Right.
And so speaking of AI, CEO Dev Ittycheria was talking about thousands of AI applications already running on MongoDB.
A lot of them are still in the experimental phase, though.
Which I think is interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because it shows...
Yeah, a lot of companies are still just dipping their toes in the water.
Exactly, yeah.
Figuring things out, right?
Yeah, they're kicking the tires,
Yeah.
but they haven't really gone all in yet.
Exactly.
So the question then becomes, what is MongoDB doing to prepare for when companies do really start to embrace AI and go all in?
Well, one thing they're doing is they're really starting to focus on those big companies, right? Those large enterprises.
Right.
They're moving resources away from the mid-market, and they're really trying to hone in on those companies that have those really complicated needs and those big budgets.
Because that makes sense, right? Those big companies are the
Yeah.
ones that can really invest in AI, that have the resources to do it and need a database that can handle it.
Exactly. They're going to be the ones pushing the boundaries.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's where MongoDB wants to be.
Well, and think about fraud detection or personalized recommendations for e-commerce giants. I mean, you're talking about processing enormous amounts of data.
In real time.
Yeah.
Which is exactly where MongoDB really shines.
Right. And then you think about it too, like a lot of those big companies are still running on those ancient
legacy systems.
Yeah, no. 40-year-old systems that can't handle this.
They just weren't built for this, right?
Exactly, yeah.
This is where MongoDB sees a huge opportunity.
Yeah, well, so they're actually using AI tools to help companies move away from those legacy systems.
I mean, it's genius. Right.
It is pretty smart.
They're using the thing that everyone's afraid of to get rid of the thing that's holding them back.
And they're seeing some success with it, too. I mean, they're saying they can reduce the cost of modernizing those legacy applications by as much as 50%.
50%. That's insane.
It is, yeah. It's a game changer. But, it's not just internal tools and expertise. They're also partnering with all the big names in cloud computing.
Hyperscalers, yeah.
Yeah, so you've got AWS, Azure, Google Cloud.
It means that MongoDB is becoming the default.
Right. Like if you're going to build on one of those platforms, MongoDB is right there.
It's a very smart move.
It is.
They're making sure that everyone thinks of them when they're moving to the cloud.
Right. But, they're not just sitting back and waiting for it to happen. They're also constantly innovating.
Oh, absolutely. They have to.
They're coming out with new features.
All the time. Things like Atlas Search Notes, for example.
Yeah. Well, and what is that? Like for the non-technical person out there?
Well, essentially, it lets you scale the search part of your application separately from the database.
Ah, so you don't have to scale up everything just because you're doing more searches.
Exactly. You can handle a massive amounts of search queries without breaking the bank, which is really important for AI.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then you've got things like quantization for Atlas Vector Search, which is a mouthful.
It's a mouthful.
But basically, it just means that it uses way less memory, like up to 96% less.
For what, though?
For these vector searches.
Okay.
Which are super important for AI applications.
So it's all about making AI more efficient.
Exactly. More powerful, more cost-effective.
MongoDB is clearly trying to make themselves the go-to database for AI.
And it's a really interesting strategy, right? They're tackling it from all angles.
Right.
They're building the features, they're forming the partnerships, they're focusing on the right customers.
Yeah, I mean, it's a company that's clearly firing on all cylinders, but there's also been a little bit of a shakeup in the leadership team.
Right, the CFO, Michael Gordon.
Yeah, he announced that he's stepping down.
After 10 years.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that impacts things moving forward.
Definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, but, overall, I think it's safe to say that MongoDB is a company with a really bright future.
I think so, too. But it's important to remember that no investment is without risk.
Oh, of course, right.
We've highlighted a lot of the positives, but there are potential challenges as well.
What do you think are some of the biggest risks?
Well, their focus on large enterprises could backfire if those deals take longer to close or if the competition heats up.
Right. And there's always the macroeconomic environment to consider, right? Inflation, interest rates, the possibility of recession, all those things could impact their growth.
Absolutely. So while I'm optimistic about MongoDB, it's crucial to do your own research and weigh the risks and rewards before making any investment decisions.
Well said. Now, with that disclaimer out of the way, are you ready to have some fun?
Oh, I am always ready for the "this is not financial advice" segment.
All right, let's hear it. What outrageous but plausible trade idea have you come up with this time?
All right, get this. What if MongoDB, on top of everything else they're doing, decides to partner with a major gaming company to create a metaverse platform?
Oh, whoa. Hold on. A MongoDB metaverse.
Yeah, think about it. The metaverse is all about these persistent real-time interactions between potentially millions, billions of users.
And that requires a database that can handle insane amounts of data, constantly changing data.
Right. And who better than MongoDB? Their platform is perfect for this.
So you're picturing them teaming up with someone like, say, Epic Games, the creators of Fortnite.
Exactly. They could create a metaverse that's unlike anything we've ever seen.
With MongoDB as the underlying data layer, powering everything.
Everything. User interactions, virtual economies, digital asset creation, you name it.
It's definitely a bold idea.
But if it works, their stock could absolutely explode.
I mean, we're talking rocket ship to the moon kind of growth.
Oh,
But of course, this is all purely hypothetical, just for fun.
this is not financial advice. Don't go betting your life savings on a MongoDB metaverse just yet.
But it's definitely a fun thought experiment.
It is. It makes you think about the possibilities, right?
Yeah. And, it speaks to MongoDB's potential.
Absolutely. They're a company that's not afraid to think big and push the boundaries.
Yeah. All right. So let's take a step back and kind of summarize what we've learned from this deep dive into MongoDB's Q3 2025 earnings call. We saw strong financial results. They're making strategic moves to position themselves as leaders in both the enterprise and AI markets.
They're investing in innovative features and partnerships to solidify their competitive edge.
And they're even exploring some really interesting, potentially groundbreaking opportunities like the metaverse.
It's safe to say that MongoDB is a company worth watching.
But, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, there's one more aspect we want to touch on. We've talked a lot about the technology, the strategy, the market opportunity.
What about the people?
Right. At the end of the day, technology is only as good as the people behind it.
Exactly. So what can you tell us about MongoDB's company culture? What kind of people are drawn to this company?
Well, from what I've gathered, MongoDB fosters a culture that really values innovation, collaboration, and a genuine passion for data.
Which makes sense, right? They're trying to solve some of the most complex data challenges out there.
And with their roots in the open source community, they have this strong sense of shared purpose and a commitment to building technology that benefits everyone.
It's that combination of technical brilliance and human ingenuity that makes MongoDB such a compelling company to follow.
And I think it's, they're not just building a database, they're building a platform for human connection and creativity in this digital age.
That's a great way to put it.
And that's something that I think is really worth paying attention to.
Absolutely. So what's next on our agenda for this deep dive?
Well, in the next part, we're going to take a closer look at their decision to shift their focus away from the mid-market and really double down on those larger enterprises.
We'll examine why they're making this move, what the potential risks are, and how it all fits into their overall growth strategy.
We'll also dive deeper into those innovative product features we talked about earlier, like Atlas search nodes and quantization for Atlas vector search, breaking down how they work and why they matter, especially for those of you working with AI.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. So until next time, thanks for tuning in to Talk Tickers.
So let's dig a little deeper into this whole shift towards focusing on large enterprises.
Yeah, we talked about in the last part how they're reallocating resources away from the mid-market. But what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, one thing they're doing is beefing up their strategic account program.
Okay.
So they're really identifying those high potential, large enterprise customers and kind of giving them the white glove treatment.
So like dedicated account managers, prioritize support, that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's
Okay.
all about building those deep relationships, really understanding the challenges that those big organizations are facing.
And it's not just about landing the deal, right? It's about making sure these companies are successful with MongoDB.
Right, because if those big companies are successful, MongoDB is successful.
Exactly.
So they're investing a lot in educating developers within those companies.
Which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
A lot of developers are coming from that traditional SQL background.
Right, so there's a learning curve there.
Yeah, so MongoDB's got to make sure they're providing the resources and support to get those developers up to speed.
Exactly, yeah. It's all about making sure that those large enterprises not only adopt MongoDB, but really embrace it.
Right, like really build their most important applications on it.
Right.
But it's not without risk, right? Pulling back from the mid-market, which has been a big growth area for them, could backfire.
Yeah, there's definitely a risk there.
If those big enterprise deals don't materialize as quickly as they hope.
Right, if those deals take longer to close or if they don't close at all.
Yeah, that could be a problem, but it sounds like they're not completely abandoning the mid-market.
No, not at all. They're still serving those customers, but maybe through more efficient channels, like self-service portals, online resources.
It's kind of like a balancing act.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to serve both markets effectively.
Right.
It's a calculated risk, but if it pays off.
It could be huge. If
Yeah.
those large enterprises really jump on board, it could significantly change their growth trajectory.
Right, and it's not just about the size of the deals, right?
Yeah.
It's about the complexity of the problems
Right.
these big companies are trying to solve.
Yeah, and MongoDB is uniquely positioned to help them with that.
Yeah. Let's talk more about that, this whole legacy app modernization thing.
Yeah, it's a big deal for these large enterprises. Many of them are still running on these ancient systems.
I mean, we're talking systems that are 40 years old in some cases.
Yeah, it's crazy. These systems are clunky, they're inefficient, they're just not built for the demands of modern applications.
And that's where MongoDB comes in, right?
Yeah, they're using AI-powered tools to help companies migrate away from those legacy systems.
And it's not just the AI,
Right.
right? It's their expertise, their professional services, that whole package.
Yeah, they have a product called Relational Migrator, too.
Okay, and what's that all about?
It helps companies move their data from relational databases to MongoDB.
Ah, so it's kind of like a bridge between the old and the new.
Exactly.
They're making it as painless as possible for companies to modernize their applications.
Exactly. And they're seeing some really good results.
Like what kind of results?
Well, they said in the earnings call that they're seeing a 50% reduction in the cost of modernization for companies using their tools.
That's huge. I mean, no wonder companies are ditching those old systems.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
And it's not just about cost savings, right? MongoDB's platform is inherently well-suited for these modernized applications.
Oh, absolutely. MongoDB's flexible, it can scale, it can handle all sorts of different data.
So it's a natural fit for the kind of applications enterprises are building today.
Yeah, things like microservices, real-time analytics, applications that need to handle unstructured data.
Like social media feeds or sensor data.
Exactly.
Yeah.
MongoDB can handle all of that.
So they're kind of killing two birds with one stone, right?
Mm.
They're helping enterprises modernize, and at the same time, they're locking them into the MongoDB ecosystem.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It's a win-win, and let's not forget about those partnerships with the hyperscalers.
Yeah, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, those are huge.
How do those partnerships play into this whole modernization thing?
Well, a lot of companies are moving their legacy apps to the cloud as part of their modernization efforts.
Right.
And by partnering with the hyperscalers, MongoDB is making sure they're right there waiting for them.
It's like they're setting up shop right at the entrance to the cloud migration party.
Exactly. They want to be the obvious choice when companies are looking for a new database.
So it's all about making it as easy as possible for those companies to adopt MongoDB.
Yeah, they want to remove any friction, any barriers to entry.
And they're not just relying on partnerships, right? They're also innovating on the product side.
Oh, absolutely. We talked about Atlas search nodes and quantization for Atlas vector search.
Right, let's dive a little deeper into those.
Okay, so Atlas search nodes, those are all about handling those massive search queries that are so common in AI applications.
AI models are data hungry, right?
Yeah, they need tons of data to learn and make predictions.
So with Atlas search nodes, you can scale up your search capabilities without having to scale up your entire database,
Exactly. It's much more efficient and cost effective.
which is really important when you're dealing with AI.
Yeah, because AI applications can generate a ton of data.
And then there's quantization for Atlas vector search, which, I'll be honest, I don't fully understand what that is.
It's a bit technical, but basically it reduces the amount of memory needed for those vector searches,
Okay.
which are really important for certain types of AI applications.
So it's all about making MongoDB more powerful and more efficient for AI.
Exactly. They want to make sure MongoDB is the best database for AI applications.
And then there's the leadership change, right? The CFO stepping down.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Mhm.
It'll be interesting to see who they bring in to replace him.
And how that impacts the company's direction.
Right.
But, it's not all sunshine and roses.
Yeah.
There are risks, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Their focus on large enterprises could backfire.
Like we talked about earlier.
If those deals take longer to close or if the competition heats up.
Right, because they're not the only ones playing in this space.
Exactly. They've got some tough competition.
And then there's the macroeconomic environment, right?
Yeah.
Inflation, interest rates, all that stuff could impact their growth.
Definitely. It's a reminder that no investment is without risk.
Even in a company as promising as MongoDB.
Exactly.
Okay, well, with that dose of reality out of the way, you ready for some fun?
Oh, you know I am.
Let's hear it. What's your "this is not financial advice" idea for today?
All right, buckle up for this one. So, what if MongoDB not only becomes the go-to database for AI, but they also partner with a time travel research institute?
Whoa, full on, all right.
It's out there.
A time travel research institute.
Yeah, and they create a historical data archive powered by MongoDB.
Okay, so like a digital library of Alexandria.
But even bigger. Imagine a platform that stores every historical document, every artifact, every piece of data ever collected.
We're talking original manuscripts from, ancient philosophers.
Yeah. Economic trends across centuries. You could even experience historical events through simulations.
So you're thinking they partner with universities, museums, research institutions.
Exactly. It would be this massive collaboration.
And MongoDB would be the backbone of it all.
Yeah, their platform could handle the scale and complexity of that kind of data.
It's a mind-blowing idea.
Yeah.
What about the ethical implications? Access to that kind of information would have to be carefully controlled.
Oh, absolutely. There would be a ton of ethical considerations.
Privacy, data ownership, the potential for misuse. It's a lot to think about.
Definitely. But it's a fascinating concept, right?
It is. It really highlights the power of data.
And the potential for MongoDB to play a role in shaping our understanding of history.
All right, so maybe not something to invest in just yet, but definitely something to ponder.
Right. This is purely hypothetical, for entertainment purposes only.
Okay, so let's recap what we've talked about on this part. We explored MongoDB's strategic shift toward larger enterprises, the potential risks and rewards of that move.
We talked about their efforts to dominate the legacy app modernization market, their partnerships with the hyperscalers, and their continued investment in innovation.
And we took a fun little detour into the realm of time travel and historical data archives.
Sounds about right.
But there's still more to explore. In the next part, we're going to shift gears and talk about the human element at MongoDB.
We'll delve into their company culture, the values that drive their success, and the kind of people who are drawn to this company.
So stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive into MongoDB. Welcome back to Talk Tickers. We're wrapping up our deep dive into MongoDB's Q3 2025 earnings call. And for this final part, we're going to shift gears a bit. We've talked about the numbers, the strategies, even time travel.
Now it's time for the human element.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, technology is only as good as the people behind it.
So what can you tell us about the culture at MongoDB? What makes this company tick?
Well, from what I've gathered, MongoDB has cultivated this culture that really values collaboration, a thirst for knowledge, and a genuine passion for data.
Makes sense, right? Considering their roots in the open source community.
Exactly. Open source is all about sharing knowledge, working together, and that spirit seems to have really permeated MongoDB's culture. They attract people who are excited about solving complex problems, experimenting with new ideas, and constantly learning and growing.
It's not just about writing code, it's about being part of a community that's driven by a shared purpose.
Right. And that sense of purpose is palpable, even from the outside looking in, whether it's their commitment to diversity and inclusion or their efforts to support open source projects. They're definitely walking the walk when it comes to their values.
It's refreshing to see a company that not only talks the talk, but also walks the walk. And I think that authenticity is a big draw for talented individuals who want to work for a company that aligns with their own personal values.
Absolutely. It's about more than just a paycheck. It's about feeling like you're part of something bigger, something meaningful.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into MongoDB, it's clear they're a company that's firing on all cylinders. Strong financials, a clear strategic vision, innovative technology, and a vibrant, purpose-driven culture.
It's a company worth watching, not just for their potential financial returns, but also for the impact they're having on the world of technology and beyond.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from dissecting their earnings report to exploring the potential of a MongoDB-powered metaverse, and even contemplating the implications of a historical data archive.
We delved into the technical details, analyzed their strategic moves, and took a peek behind the curtain to understand the people and values that drive their success.
It's been a fascinating journey, and we hope you've gained a deeper understanding of MongoDB and the forces shaping the future of data.
Thanks for joining us on Talk Tickers. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those databases humming.